Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, I got a super fun and exciting video for you guys today because it's going to be very Sega focused. That is because Yakuza Kiwami 3 is on its way, and we now have word that Slashout, the sequel to Spikeout on Sega NAOMI, is going to be included in the arcades there along with Emergency Call Ambulance. And if you know me and you know the channel, there's two things I love. It's Sega and arcade games, and when you have something as fun as NAOMI and Model 3 coming over to another Yakuza, you know you're in for a treat. Because I absolutely love these games, and maybe you haven't played them before, but by the end of the video, I'm hoping to convince you that the most important exciting thing about Yakuza 3 is going to be the arcade games. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor and down below hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But as far as Slashout is concerned, it's using the same engine as Spikeout, and we've seen those in Yakuza games before, but it is a fantasy hack and slash beat 'em up, not so much an actual kind of Streets of Rage beat 'em up. And even though Spikeout never had the Streets of Rage moniker on it, it always felt like the 3D incarnation of that actual title. And then we're going to move over to Emergency Call Ambulance for just a bit, because this one is amazing as well. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I will leave a link in the description below, but this game is just straight up fun from start to finish, and it takes place in the city I live in, Chicago, and that always is fun to see. And like I said in previous videos, the driving in this is absolutely insane, and the traffic will just absolutely try to run you off the road and do some of the dumbest shit you've ever seen, which is absolutely 100% accurate to how Chicago drivers actually drive. I did not grow up in Chicago, but I've lived here for 16 years, and trust me, some of the stuff you see on the road, you have to assume people are like blowing a .20 BAC when they actually get behind the wheel. It is absolutely madness. But again, these are fun, important games to get preserved, and it really shows that Sega has a great handle on both Sega Model 3 as well as NAOMI emulation in a modern era, and it really makes me want Sega to release some sort of compilation, especially for their Model 3 titles, so you can actually buy them on a disc. Because we do have Supermodel, the Model 3 emulator that we play around with on PCs, and I've talked about in the past, but honestly Sega clearly has their own implementation, which means that they could definitely release some sort of compilation for these titles, and I think that would be great. Because like I said, if you've never actually seen Emergency Call Ambulance in motion, it is absolutely one of the most hilarious games out there. So starting off with the game, basically your entire job is to just get from point A to point B with your patient in the back of the car. And you'll see here the timer is basically the patient's health. If you hit anything, that timer is going to go down. So it's not like a just finish line race where you have to get to the goal before you run out of time. You can actually affect the time here and end up losing it or gaining it back. And that really is a fun conceit. And honestly, if you get really good at this game, you can beat it from start to finish in 12 minutes. And that's what I really love about the Yakuza franchise in general. If you don't feel like actually playing the mainline game, you can pop into the arcades and play a metric crap ton of fun stuff. And there's also going to be some Game Gear games included as well in the new Yakuza Kiwami 3, but honestly, arcade is way more where my heart is. And Yakuza, as well as Like a Dragon, even though I always call them Yakuza games, it basically keeps the Sega legacy alive, because in many previous videos I've talked about the fact that Sega seems to neglect some of its franchises, where fans just absolutely beg for home ports or new entries in those series, and we just never see them whatsoever. And that is always a bummer, because you just want more Sega goodness, and that is why Yakuza really does deliver those, especially on the Model 3 and NAOMI fronts, because these games, you're not really going to see them in arcades anymore, unless you go to a very specialty arcade. Emergency Call Ambulance was a fun game, but I don't really think it was a hit for Sega, nor was Slashout, and of course we never saw a Dreamcast port of that, even though the game length is over like an hour long, and it really makes you feel like it should have been a home console port, because that is the reality situation. Emergency Call Ambulance you can beat in about 12 minutes or so, maybe 10 if you get really good at the game, but Slashout is going to take you absolutely a metric crap ton of time for an arcade game, because I think my long play capture of this is around an hour and 12 minutes start to finish. And when I say Slashout doesn't pull any punches, or in this instance knife slashes, I 100% mean it. This game is brutally hard, and you're going to be spending hours upon hours with it in between playing Yakuza. And honestly, because Yakuza is so insane in and of itself, it is just absolutely one of the most exciting things in 2026 so far, and it is only January 15th. Well, let's do a little bit of a soundtrack sample so you can hear what these games sound like, and I'll come back and talk a lot more about them and talk about what I'd love to see in the next Yakuza game as far as ports are concerned. Although even though Slashout is a fantasy-themed game, it has more like a jazzy, kind of funky vibe going on to it. And moving back to Emergency Call Ambulance in the second stage, this is just such a fun game, and I can't wait for people to play around with it if they haven't already played around with it in a Yakuza game. But honestly, what I would love to see Sega do in the future, once they get through stuff like their Model 3 games, is to move over to Sega Hikaru. Stuff like Planet Harriers, stuff like Brave Firefighters. I would absolutely love to see those hit a Yakuza game, because even though Demule just recently updated and we have better emulation for Hikaru, I feel like if Sega put their entire engineering team on it, they could make a really nice solution to what amounts to basically impossible to find hardware. Because some of these Sega Model 3 games are still relatively easy to find if you want to spend the money on them. And if you want a copy of Slashout on Sega NAOMI, all you need to do is go over to eBay. But there's some Sega arcade games out there that you just absolutely cannot buy no matter how hard you look for them. Because before I did this voiceover, I took a look at eBay, Yahoo Auctions Japan, and contacted a couple vendors in China and in Japan that I work with to get arcade boards. And you know how many Hikaru boards or game ROM boards I could find for sale? Absolutely zero. That means no matter what Hikaru game you want to buy today, whether it's Planet Harrier is my favorite one, or something simple like Brave Firefighters, which had a decent amount of cabinets out in the world, you just cannot locate them and you just cannot actually acquire them. So hopefully Sega remembers those games exist, especially Planet Harriers, because Space Harrier is such a big franchise for them, and it's one of those things. Yakuza and Like a Dragon are really keeping the Sega arcade lineage alive, and I don't understand why Sega won't just do some sort of compilation on disc, or even allow us to download these titles independently of the actual Yakuza games, because I really don't think there is many people out there, myself included, that are going to buy a Yakuza game just to play something like Slashout. Now don't get me wrong, I buy every Yakuza game, so much so that I'm currently moving into a new house. When I went to pack up all my games, my Yakuza collection basically took an entire box, so there was like 20 different discs in there. I will always buy every Yakuza and Like a Dragon because I absolutely love the franchise, but if I didn't, I wouldn't go in and buy a $60 to $70 game new just to play something like Slashout if I was a fan. That's why it really makes more sense after Sega actually gets these things out in a Yakuza that they would bring them over to an online marketplace and let you download them for $10-15. I don't know why Sega doesn't do it. Clearly they own the rights because they're re-releasing the games, but it's one of those things. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me, would you buy Slashout for a 10 spot if it was available on something like Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X online stores, maybe even Switch 2, or is it something that you're just not that interested in? Because these titles I feel like are really Sega leaving money on the table. Now don't get me wrong, I love the fact that they give them to us for basically what amounts to free, even though we bought the game in the Yakuza titles. I just feel like Sega can definitely monetize their back catalog more, and they may actually discover that people are really hungry for ports of these games and would absolutely open up their wallet. Because obviously it doesn't take any extra effort to release this thing. If it's running in Yakuza Kiwami 3, that means it's running on emulation, which means you just need to package the game up and sell it independently. But I can't wait for people to play Slashout for the first time. This game is absolutely insane. It makes no sense whatsoever, but the combat is incredible. All the stages are unique and varied, and the enemies are absolute nightmare fuel as well as comedy fuel all at the same time. It is just one of those games. I'm not sure what they were thinking when they made it, but I'm damn sure happy that they decided to make it in the first place. Let's go into the second soundtrack sample, moving back over to Emergency Call Ambulance for just a little bit of fun, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more about Yakuza Kiwami 3. But enjoy.
35, a policeman, attacked by gang members at County Center. He was caught in an explosion caused by a small-sized missile. Bone fractures in left shoulder and right thigh. Minor burns from the thighs up to his chest. Blood loss of 1,000 cc. Blood pressure 70/50. Pulse 120. Respiration 70. GCS 12.
Are you trying to kill us? Turn left here. Turn right here. Next turn left.
I mean, honestly, the music in these games are really fun, and the reality is Slashout and Emergency Call Ambulance are just a ton of fun. And when Yakuza Kiwami 3 is here, you're going to be able to pop into the arcade and enjoy the ever-loving hell out of them. And honestly, I just love the fact that Yakuza has become such a massive franchise for Sega. I still remember playing the original game on PlayStation 2, and I played Yakuza 3 on PlayStation 3 imported in Japanese with a guide, had no idea what was going on, and absolutely still love the game. Yakuza is just one of those perfect franchises for me, and when they start doing stuff like like bringing Slashout, emergency call ambulance into the mix, perfection just gets better. You can leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's the one Sega arcade game you'd love to see in a Yakuza title that hasn't happened yet. I really would be curious because you know me, it's definitely Planet Harriers. But that's about it. Definitely look forward to Yakuza Kiwami 3. Unfortunately not on Sega's review, so I'm just going to have to buy it myself, but I'm happy to do so. But I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.